Well, welcome to My Life in Football, and it's a pleasure for me today to say that a guest today, of course, is somebody that everybody knows extremely well in non-league game, and of course a mega star on the radio as well. And so a massive welcome to My Life in Football, of course, to the one and only, the legend, Mr. Dave Anderson.
You're very kind, Dave. But it's a pleasure to be with you.
So, Dave, I suppose start off. What we normally do with the show is we start off at the beginning, and we decide to have a look at where you first started. But I mean, yourself. I mean, whereabouts was it for yourself where you first started and got involved in non-league football?
In non-league was when I first came over here, came over to England. I ended up in London. Where I met my wife, funny enough, at Alan McDonald, the late Alan McDonald, who was my best mate, who was captain of QPR in Northern Ireland, if you remember. Mm-hmm. But I had a little Sunday side that I was managing called Greenford Park Wanderers, and Steve Hawkins was the assistant manager at Harrogate Borough, which is quite local to me. And he ran a Sunday side, and my team, Greenford Park Wanderers, and his team, Princewell, were like rivals. It was like the derby game, and we always seemed to do alright against them. And he used to talk to me after the game, and then the reserve team job came up at Harrogate Borough, and he got me in basically into to speak to Chamberlain, who was the first team manager, and they gave me the reserve team job. So that was my way in, and oddly enough, my last year at Chertsey, I brought Steve back in to work with me because we'd worked together at Harrow and then at Southall together, and then we'd gone our separate ways for the best part of 25 years, I'm guessing. But I brought him back in, so I sort of started my career with him and finished my career with him, if that makes sense. But that was me in. He was me in, and I took over Harrogate Borough Reserves, and then towards the end of that season, Tom McAllister became the first team manager, the ex-West Ham goalkeeper, and he brought me in as his assistant, and that was me sort of into the first team level,
I mean, I've looked at, I've trusted Wikipedia. It says here that some of the other teams at early stages: Enfield, Aylesbury, St Albans.
Yeah, you could keep going. There's a load. What happened at Harrow was after. When I was at Harrow, I left Harrow to take over North Greenford United as my first sort of proper first team manager's job. Oddly enough, in combined counties, the level where it was at Chertsey, and had a disaster. I remember getting the sack from that. And George Borg, who'd taken over at Harrow, and Steve Crompton was the goalkeeper who had been there when I was there, and he'd asked George if I could come in and do a couple of nights with him. Just working as goalkeeper to goalkeeper. And George then invited me to stay. So I stayed with George. Then George got the Enfield job and asked me to go with him as his assistant, and that's how that sort of happened. And I only really went. I mean, George Borg was a very successful manager, but we didn't get on great, and we were different people. And there was no sort of love lost between us. But he was always successful in what he did. And the only reason I went to Enfield was because it was a big club. And I wanted to go and work at a big club. Otherwise, I would have stayed at Harrow. But that's what took me there. I then left Enfield and went back to Harrow again with Bob Dowie, who really turned out to be my mentor. Bob was manager of Harrow, and then Bob got the Aylesbury job and took me with him. So that's what took me there. And I always remember I think we were something stupid like 8 points clear, or 6 points clear with a game in hand with 10 games to go to win the Isthmian Premier, to take us into the conference in them days, because there was no conference north and south. And Bob got the sack. And it's one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in non-league football as to why it happened. But yeah, so that's the sort of story into my time at those clubs,
So I've got down. I've got here going into to Hendon in '99.
Yeah. We bought after St Albans, Bob got this. Sorry, after Aylesbury, Bob got the St Albans job, and sorry, there's someone trying to. Let me put that. Sorry, it's just a phone call coming through me. Bob got the St Albans job after Aylesbury, and I went with him. And then Peter Lawrence was there as well as a coach, and so was Eddie T. So there was a big staff, and what tended to happen if you're a goalkeeper, and I wouldn't be the only one in this, is when there's a bigger staff, you end up with the goalkeepers, because you're a goalkeeper and that's your speciality would be. But I was trying to move away from that. I was trying to sort of get myself an assistant to become a gaffer. So I ended up going to Hendon with Frank Murphy and Curtis Warmington. At the time, it was me, Frank, and Curtis as the staff, and it was difficult to leave Bob because he was my mentor, and still to this day, we used to call him the sorcerer and the sorcerer's apprentice, because he taught me all I really knew. But to go in and work with Frank and be given the freedom to go and coach the team and have a real big say in the side, that sort of developed me as on my own, really, underneath, to get out of Bob's shadow, for want of a better description, because so that was the start of him. And then Frank left, I think, after a year or so, and I took over, and that was sort of 3 years as manager.
So, any memories there? Hendon, what was your best memory at Hendon for you?
Great team, real old school team. Old school as much as it was drinking culture days, and had a real group of people who were very much together, whether it was on the pitch or in the bar. They and successful with it. But I always remember we signed Rob Howarth, who lived in Hendon, on like about 2 miles from the ground, and we signed him from, I think it was Sutton, and his wife said to him on Thursday night when he got in from training, "So how come when you were at Sutton you used to get home at 10:30, and you're at Hendon, and if I look out the upstairs window I can see the floodlights, and you don't get home to midnight?" It was it was that stuff, But and it was very much, I was a younger manager in the dressing room. Was still very much the manager, and a lot more volatile in those days. I think dressing rooms they were harder places. There was the culture of players has changed over my time as a manager. But in them days, it was a proper old school dressing room. But once I went in the bar, I couldn't be the manager then. I had to, if I was going to have a few beers with the lads, I think they'd accept that you're going to have a good laugh with them, and then work is finished. We've clocked out, if you like. So we had numerous times. I remember we went to Bedford one day, and when we got there, the heavens opened, and they postponed the game. About 1 o'clock they called the game off, and Bedford, can't remember the manager off the top of my head, but they let us use their training ground out the back because they were going training, we were going training. So we did a blowout for an hour, got back in the bar, I'm guessing around about 2:30, and the coach wasn't booked to go back till obviously 5:30. So we ended up on the beer, like with the Bedford lads all afternoon. So that was it. And then get back to Hendon, and it was one of them nights, you don't plan, and don't happen too often these days. And I don't think that's wrong. I'm just saying it's a different generation. But I remember people coming over from Belfast, my mates, coming back in the bus with a massive sing song, and so real good. I've got lots of good memories. On the pitch, we finished. I think it's Hendon's highest finish in 30, 40 years. We finished third. I'm thinking off the top of my head. Before Conference North and South came in, which was a big achievement. We won the Middlesex County Cup 3 years in a spin. So we did well on the pitch as well. I remember we've maybe something like, I'm guessing he's finished 8th, and then maybe 6th, and then 3rd or 4th, I think. And that was the year that they brought in Conference North and Conference South, and Hendon had the chairman, Ivor Arbiter, who was a dream to work for, had said that they didn't feel financially they could go into the Conference South, so Henry passed up on it. But at that stage, I had applied for the Wimbledon job anyway, so I started to do that. That's what I wanted to do, and lucky enough I got that. So, but realistically, I think in hindsight, it was a mistake for Hendon not to take up the opportunity, because I think they'd have stayed in it.
So, I mean, you said you applied for the Wimbledon job. I mean, that's a massive job to actually get hold of, I suppose, even at that stage. And I know, a couple of times when they were coming down to play Waltham Abbey, just down the road to me, it was a really, really big thing that they were going to come down and play in the league and playing against Waltham Abbey, or a cup game, or whatever it might have been. But for you though, I mean, applying for that and actually getting it, you must have felt over the moon when you got that one.
Yeah, it was a strange thing, because I'd heard about it, but I'd heard about it, and I spoke to John Morris, who's no longer with us. John was my reserve team manager at Hendon, and he knew the level better, the combined counties and that sort of level better. I think they'd just gone into Division 1, and I said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll go and watch a game, and I always remember going on a Wednesday night, and they were playing the team that was like in the top 3. Wimbledon were top. Wednesday night fixture, quarter to 8 kickoff, and they had to put the kickoff back to get the crowd in. There was like over 3,000 at the game, and I just said to John, "We've got to try and get this. This is." I couldn't believe what I was watching. A combined counties game with like 3,500 people at it. So I then did my homework on it, applied. I remember having an initial meeting. I think I might have had 3 interviews, and the third one was like 2 hours. And I think at that stage, I found out that it had boiled down to myself and John. He's no longer with us as well. It was John Rains, who was the manager of Sutton. I think it boiled down to me and Rainsy, and I got it. But you sort of think, okay, fair enough. But I always remember I was in Spain, Portugal, playing golf, and we were due to go and play, and the chairman had rang me, and I said, "Look, Chairman, you don't have to tell me now, because I'm about to go and play golf." And he said, "Well, Dave, we need to speak to other people." I said, "Well, look, I'm in Portugal. I'm not going to tell anyone. Do you know what I mean?" And he said, "Well, look, you've got it. You've got the job." So all the guys that weren't the guys had sort of gone down to the range to leave me to take the phone call. And I always remember it was one of their birthdays, and they'd left the card for me to sign, because they'd all signed it. So I just put in it, "Happy birthday" from the manager of AFC Wimbledon. So when I went down to see the boys at the range, I went, I didn't get it, And we went the whole day where I went, "Don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Oh, don't worry." And then when we came off the course, we gave him the card, which I was the last one to sign. And he read it, and he went, "What do you mean from the new manager of AFC Wimbledon?" And that's when I told him. So we had a real party. And I remember getting off the plane. I phoned John Turner, who was my assistant. I told him. And then I switched the phone off. So it was nice to sort of be away out of the way to let it settle in. I flew home. I got off the plane at Luton and went straight to Wimbledon for an open day. And when you consider at Hendon we were getting crowds of 250, maybe something like that, and we were doing really well at the time. I went to the open day. I think there was like 2,000 at the open day. So straight away, you've got to hit the ground running, Dave, put it that way,
So where were they playing at the time? Were they playing at Kingstonian or?
Yeah, no, it was they were Kingston, and I think they just bought Kingston then. So my whole time there, that's where the ground was, and it's a ground that you put 3,500 in it. It's full. It holds about 5 at a push, 4.5 to 5, but 3 to 3.5, which was the average gates. Every time you came down the tunnel on a Saturday, it was amazing. Just packed out.
So when you started with them, then you was Combined Counties League. Did you say when you started?
No, they just won the Combined Counties. I took over that next season in the Isthmian 1.
Right.
1 North, I think. One South. One of the division North or South. And we won it. That was part of the deal. Was I had to get promotion out of Division 1 in the first year, which I did. And then I had to get out of the Premier in 2 years, and we get beaten 2 playoffs. And that was me. That was in 3 years up, But I always remember someone told me the stat. I think in 3 years, I lost I think it was 57% win rate, which is right up there with the good guys. And I lost something like 16 games, and that's everything. That's the FA Cup, the FA Trophy. So, but I think I drew too many. That was the downfall. But it was a stressful time. But it was a real. When you look back on it, I was really fortunate because that was the only time I would have got the job. The club was always going to move on at an unbelievable rate. And I've still got a big association with it now. I still pop it time to time. But it's to be part of a story like that's, it's something that I'm very proud of.
So if you'd have got promotion, how long do you reckon you might have been there for?
Well, I think I remember laughing when I heard it. They wanted to get into the league in 10 years, and I was like, oh, yeah, there's some chance of that. They did it in 9, which is. But I think if I had won, I think if I had got promotion in the second, any one of the 2 playoffs, it automatically guaranteed me another year on the contract. That was the sort of written deal that we had. But it was a football club that you would have to sustain success. And Terry Brown came in after me and did that. Terry had maybe 2 or 3 promotions, took him from getting the playoffs in the Isthmian Premier, but he won in the final. I think there might be stains in the final off the top of my head, but then he sort of won Conference South, and then they won the playoffs in the conference against Luton at Man City. So he took it up, took it 2 or 3 levels, but it always had to have that in it. It was a juggernaut, and you had to keep it moving.
So what was some of the best stories or best nights for you then when you was manager at Wimbledon?
It's one of them surreal places for a non-league manager because a full house every week you get used to, oddly enough. You nearly become used to coming out and no matter where you're home or away, it being a full house. But I remember game-wise, when we broke the British record. We played Fleet at home, and the crowd chanted Anderson's Yellow Army for 45 minutes solid. I couldn't believe it. Like, when we kicked off until we went in the dressing room at half time, they sung it. And so we broke the British record that night, or equalled it, and I think we might have broke it the week after away at Bromley, where we drew 1 each. So they stick in my head. I also remember getting beat at Hampton one night when we had a player sent off early second half, and the atmosphere. I mean, we had a real goal, but we ended up getting beat. But the atmosphere and the support that night sticks in my head. The County Cup final at Woking, that big stand at Woking, packed to the roof. I used to show players the video of that when I've got them in to sign them. We were talking about money. I used to just press play on the laptop and say, look, do you want to play in front of this? It's like watching a Premier League support, So yeah, brilliant times. Surreal times as well. I switched the Christmas tree lights on in Wimbledon, which is, daft, one of them stupid things I did live in the studio at Sky, Sky Sports News, where, never thought that anyone put makeup on me, but, had that. So real stupid stuff. I remember, not stupid, but you know what I mean? Like, I remember switching the Christmas tree lights on at Wimbledon, and the next day I was delivering wine in Tunbridge Wells. It's the 2 sides of your life, and then, so stuff like that. Shane Smelts, who was a centre forward for me. I remember watching him afterwards, well, I watched him at Fulham playing full international for New Zealand, and then after he left the club, he went back. He had a really successful career in Australia, but I remember watching him score against in the World Cup finals. So it's not often as a non-league manager you watch one of your players score against the World Cup winners, in the World Cup. So off the top of my head, there's a few, but as you can imagine, it was an unbelievable place to work. We tried to keep the dressing room exactly the same as it was at any other non-league ground. Although they were posing for photographs and signing shirts and signing balls, stuff like that, which was a little bit abnormal for our level. Once we got them in the dressing room, we tried to keep it normal, and I think that was essential at that time.
So I'm from Wimbledon then, and I mean, must have been a little bit different. I mean, the list I've got in front of me says you went to be assistant at Windsor and Eton.
Yeah, well, what happened was after I left Wimbledon was Simon Lane was the manager of Windsor, who I'd known over the years, and he just phoned me and says, what are you doing? I went, nothing really, I'm just looking to see what comes up. He says, well, why don't you come in and give us a hand? Which was brave of him, because, I always felt it was brave of him to do that, because people would be scared to take their job, because I'm out of work. But I must admit, a good fun there, because there was a few of the ex-Hendon lads who were with me, and actually a couple who had been at Wimbledon as well in the first season. So I settled into that quick, and I really enjoyed being the assistant, because you could sit down with the lads now and you could be one of the guys a bit more than being the manager. And it was a good time. I remember enjoying football again for a while, and then I made a bad decision. I took a St Albans job, big club, but the wrong chairman for me. We just never get on from minute one, and I wouldn't change many things I've done in my career, because I think you have to live with the good and the bad. But that was a real bad decision on my part to go and work for him. Not to go and work for St Albans, but just to go and work for him at that time. And if I had changed my career, I would definitely stay at Windsor for the next season.
And how did you get over that? I mean, was that how quickly into that job did you realise that you'd made that wrong decision?
Well, I in all honesty, Dave, I knew within 20 minutes. I just, I'm not good at many things, but I'm a good judge of character. It's the one thing I can suss out in you who you are and what you are quickly. And I'd met him and his sidekick in a pub. It was a big job. I thought it was a job that was Conference South, which I wanted to work in, although they were at the bottom and spending a lot of money. And I thought it was a good job to follow Wimbledon, which is difficult. If you leave Wimbledon, what do you do next? So I thought it looked reasonable that I'd gone up a level. But it was a bad idea. I mean, it was just, I let my heart rule my head, because my head told me early on it was a bad idea, but I went with it. And 3 months later, he sacked me. And in all honesty, if I had gone to 4 months, it would have come to punches, but we just didn't get on, and I'm quite sort of forthright with, well, me, I have a big mouth, and I'm not scared to open it. And I told him a couple of times what I thought of him privately, and he didn't like it, So it was a bad idea, but we all make them.
But then, I mean, from there onto Northwood.
Yeah, to be fair, the chairman of Northwood, Ian Barry, was a friend of mine who had played for me many moons ago at North Greenford as goalkeeper, and he just rang me out of the blue, and they parted company with their manager, and he rang me and he said, "Look, what are you doing?" I says, "Why?" He says, I've no manager. Would you help me out for a couple of weeks? Because I said, well, look, let's have a meet anyway, and I'll have a chat with you. So I met with him, and I said, I don't really want to do it for 5 minutes. I either want to do it or I don't want to do it, And I worked for him for a lot less than I've worked for most people. But he also paid me a lot more than he paid most people. So it was a sort of we met in the middle, and I think I was probably there for a year. I don't know off the top of my head, but again, we had a successful time. We did quite well in the league, and I think we took Northwood to their best sort of trophy run ever. I remember we beat Basingstoke in it. I remember going to Concord Rangers and beating Donny Cowley and Nicky Cowley, who are still friends of mine till today. But I remember going there and playing down there and beating them, and getting to know them through an argument. You know, where we had an argument, the two dugouts down there quite close, and Donny's quite fiery as well. So me and him were at it the whole game, but then afterwards, he earned my respect. Nicky was playing; he's a good midfielder, Nicky Cowley. But they came over and bought me a drink, and we sat down, me and my sister, and to this day we're friends, you know. So I've good memories of Northwood, and in the end, you know, the club were struggling, finances as much as anything, and I said to him, look, the biggest way to cut your expenses is to have a go. You know, that would save you some money, and that's what it did. You know, sort of I left, but on absolute good terms, and it was basically that's what it was. It was going to be something to help him out for a while, and it became a lot longer than that. And I've good memories of it. You know, it was good fun.
So, I mean, you say you had sort of, should we say, fun times with the Cowleys. I mean, are you surprised at where they've gone?
Yes and no. I think if you're trying to be clever, you would say no. I always knew they'd do what they do, and I think some people will say that. I would say that part of me isn't. I'm absolutely. They work very, very hard. They're extremely passionate about what they do. They're driven. The two of them are driven guys. Get on great as brothers, you know, and there's a real bond, obviously, between them. So that part of it doesn't surprise me at all. But to go from Concord Rangers to Lincoln City and to be linked with West Bromwich Albion and Middlesbrough only a couple of weeks ago, then you have to say that's a real success story. But I've spoke to them. I did a little motivational video for the players for Wembley, and Nicky and Danny done a little bit for it, and they were really complimentary to me and the team, and give us a couple of real good pointers for the game. But I don't think they've stopped. I think they'll end up Championship Premier League, you know, because you can't be lucky for the amount of time they've done well. Yeah. You can be lucky once. You can't be lucky 7 or 8 times. And I always remember saying to him, and it's funny, and I must go and watch the game to see if he's changed. I remember it might have been when we went back with Horraborough. It was because Jason Goodliffe was my assistant, who was at Stevenage last year. But he was up and down at the yo-yo. Donny was standing, screaming, shouting. And I remember talking to him coming off saying, listen, you need to, if you're ever going to go anywhere and someone comes to watch you and you get on like that, you've no chance. You know, the people ain't going to employ you for that. You need to sort out your dugout behaviour, you know. And he said, yeah, no, I get that. And then I remember watching him at Wilson in the playoff a year later, and he was exactly the same guy as he was. He hadn't done that. And I said to him after, I'm glad you listened to me then, you know. He went, oh, he said, I can't help it. And part of you have to be what you are, don't you? You know, I was always quite loud and animated at times in the dugout, until someone showed video of me in the dugout, which changed. It's embarrassing watching yourself. But I would say that they, I don't think they've finished. They've won the league again this year with Lincoln. I'd like to see the record since they went there, and the gates, how much they've gone up. So they're a real success story. And when you get them in dugout, they're a nightmare. When you get them away from the dugout and in the bar, or if you give them a ring, they are the nicest people you'd wish to meet. They care about you. They give you honest opinions of it. They'll always get back to you. And I'm aware of how busy they are when in the role that they're doing now. So yeah, no, I wish them nothing but success.
I mean, just as you say, I mean, for me, I don't see them anything else other than the Premier League eventually. But I think it's going to happen. But for you, I suppose, you know, I mean, what's their you're saying, you was at one stage or some of your career, most of your career, a bit of a fiery manager on the touchline. But I mean, was there somebody that you loved going up against that was maybe the same sort of character as yourself? So, I don't know, somebody like a Craig Edwards, if you ever come up against somebody like him? Or
yeah, I did. To be fair, I remember arguing with Craig one day at Grays. He was manager of Grays. I think that's when we first met as well. Being on the show with you, with Craig. And great laugh, what a character. But I remember sort of arguing more with his assistant. I can't even remember what it was about, but there was words exchanged, and I remember saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really scared, you South London guys, me coming from Belfast, I'm petrified of you, and he was giving it the big, don't be thinking you're too big man, and it was one of them. But as soon as the final whistle went, he came over and shook hands, and we went and had a beer. And from that day to this, listen, we've had arguments in the dugouts, disagreements during the game, and his sides are similar to my sides. That he always has teams that are hard to play against. They work ever so hard for him. He has them all together. He gets them bonded quickly, and it's been successful throughout his career. And when you've had the length of career that he's had, you can't be lucky again. It's that you can't be lucky that amount of the time. Yeah. But he's still got a great passion, and I found that the night we were over doing your show, sort of having a chat to him. But yeah, you still love coming up against him. To be fair, when I went to Billericay, my record at Billericay wasn't great, so he used to be quite happy to see me at Billericay, because I think he'd have won more than I did, when we were over that way. But when he came my way, I think I'd probably won more than he did. But we always managed to have a beer, and still to this day when we see each other, we have a good laugh. But he's another guy that they're Dan Breed, and I suppose I fall into the bracket of the dinosaurs, But he's a proper guy, that because you know him.
I mean, the funny thing about it is with Craig, I suppose, I always describe him as somebody that you wouldn't want to see in a light alley, let alone a dark alley. but he's one of those guys that he's, as you just said, he's lovely. But I mean, I don't know if you saw the video that I think it was his son or somebody posted on Twitter or Facebook the other day with him, literally in a boxing gym, and he was on one of the big bags. And oh my God, do you know what I mean? You looked at it and thought, even now, he's like hitting that thing like that. You take one punch from him, and I think you wouldn't wake up for a week.
Oh yeah. He was a proper boxer in his day, But he, listen, you only need to look at him to know that there's fire. There's fire in the belly, But he's, thankfully, I've never had to take one,
But I mean, from there, you've gone on to Harrow Borough and spent, according to you, like 4 years down there at Harrow Borough. I mean, that's where I got to learn about the legends that you are when you was at Harrow Borough. I mean, how was that down there?
Well, that was something that I'd been at Harrow under 2 or 3 different managers as assistant manager, and it's my local club. I can actually walk there in 20 minutes. And when I retired the last time, I would do that some Saturdays in the winter. I'd put on the tracksuit hoodie, put music in, and sort of walk up and time it where I'd get there just at the start of the second half. And watch the second half and walk home. Not even go in the bar, just to sort of get out for half an hour. But it was always something that I suppose was a destiny for me to finish, to get there and finish there. But it wasn't great fun. I mean, it's a team that's always, because of the finances, going to be in the bottom half of the table. Although Steve Baker's done a great job this year. They've gone in the Southern League, and I know Steve well, and he's enjoyed the Southern League. He doesn't think he thought it was not easier. That's the wrong description, but different than the Isthmian Premier. But other than that, my 3-4 years there were all bottom. I remember surviving on the last day of the season, the first year. How we did that, I'll never know. From the start of the season, we'd no players. The second year, I remember maybe 3 or 4 games to go, we were safe. And the last year, the third year, I think it was there 3 or 4 years, but the last year, I remember we were in deep trouble when I left. And I don't have a relegation on the CV, but that's as close as it was ever going to get. And Steve got the job after me and kept them up. I was more delighted than he was, because if they had to get relegated, I'd have got the blame, rightly so as well. So he capped them up, so I capped a relegation off my CV. But as much as my little club, I had good times there, with my staff. Jason Goodliff, what a pleasure to work with him, who had been a player I'd admired for years and someone away from football. And to get him, he left Boreham Wood. He'd had a disagreement with Boreham with the people of Boreham Wood, and he agreed to come to Harrogate, and that was brilliant. That was brilliant to work for him. And then as soon as Graham Wesley got the Stevenage job, at that time, I actually said to him, "He'll be on the phone for you." He went, "No, he won't," and he was, and he went from Harrogate to the Football League, and we're still good mates now. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with him. Darren Wilkinson, who was the second member of staff, is an absolute diamond. He's just a great lad. Great pedigree as a footballer. Played for Brighton. Actually played for Brighton against Man United when Beckham made his debut. That's his little sort of claim to fame. Loves his stuff, and he's just a nice guy. And it's still there now, because Steve Baker played with him at Hayes, so kept him on, and he deserves to be involved. So that part of it was good fun. On the playing side, I had Nicky Pope on loan, who is now Burnley in England. So that I remember that being good. I had James Shea, who I signed, who's just been released by Arsenal, and I sold him to Wimbledon. And that was good fun. And I had some good players go through. Oddly enough, Quincy Rowe and Michael Peacock, who both played as my two centre-halves at Wembley, actually were my two centre-halves at Harrow at one stage. So there is good memories in and around there. But my overall memory is it didn't happen. And I've got to take a bit of responsibility for that. I'm not blaming anyone else. So, and what I found out, Dave, was it's much easier to be at the top of the league than the bottom. People think the top of the league carries pressure. Believe me, the bottom of the league carries much more stress, pressure. The places, when you're at the top of the league, you lose 1 in 10. When you're at the bottom of the league, you win 1 in 10. So there's always a cloud hanging over the place. And I didn't like it, and I don't think it was me. My standards, I'd get angry quicker, because when you have lesser players, they make mistakes you don't expect them to make, and I'm not good with that, And so I'm definitely a manager that although one of the Church kept them up, and then we went on from that. But at Harrow, I just couldn't get away from the bottom of the division.
So I mean, from there, I mean, was that the first time you retired at the end of from Harrow Borough? I mean, was that more to concentrate? Was it a case of you just got tired of non-league, or was it was it that sort of time that you was with Caroline and started in the non-league show? I mean, how did that come about?
No, I've been doing the show for about 10 years. It happened. I used to sort of do interviews on the phone when I was at Wimbledon. They would always give me a ring, a bit like this. And then when I left St Albans, I remember when I left St Albans, she asked me to come into the studio to tell my side of the story. So I went to the studio, and we just hit it off straight away with a real chemistry. And she said after the show, "Come in when you want." I said, "Well, see you next week." And that was literally it. And then I did it every week. Well, not every week, but I've did it for, I guess, 30 years now, something like that. So that coincided with the football. I just got to the end of the road with struggling and stress, and bringing that mood into my own home, and because you take it home no matter how hard you try not to. And I just financially I worked a little bit more on my own business to build it up, so that the football money was always part of my income. I'm fortunate enough that I've always been paid for it. So I got away from that. I built my business up a little bit, and still did the non-league show. But when I left Harrow, I thought that'll do me,
So what's Caroline like to work with? She does everything and you do nothing, and she's
she presents the show. She's producing it. She's doing the phone calls. She's poking you with questions they ask, and all you do is turn up and say a few words every now and again. But you've been around her. Proper pro. We're talking about levels. She's Premier League. She's proper Premier League when it comes to radio, and is now sort of getting the success that she more than deserves. And well, I haven't seen her for a while. I spoke to her maybe the week before Wembley, and she'd been ill. She'd had like an ear infection and had been off work a little bit. But he's top drawer and just good fun to be around. Makes it look so easy. Like everybody that's good at their job seems to make it look easy, and me and you do this stuff, and it's not easy, but she makes it look easy.
Yeah. So I mean, also, I suppose you've worked with my co-host as well on the occasion as well, Mr. McMahon. I mean, what was he like to work with?
Yeah, I like Keith because he's. You have to have people who aren't scared to voice their opinions, and he falls into that bracket. Believe me, he's not scared to voice it, and so we've that in common. I like his passion for the game. When I first met him, he was quite a young manager. So I've watched him mature, and get better at his job. But Keith would pay you to do it. I think the difference between me and Keith is he would pay you to do it. He just wants to do it. I don't. I always wanted to be paid to do it. But in and around the radio stuff, he's essential. But you can't have someone that says this. You have to have someone that says, "What are you talking about? That's nonsense." And he's got that in his locker, and he can't help himself. And that's good. That's good fun, then.
And it's say, I've been, as you know, we're working with him for about 3 or 4 years now, and he's just fantastic. There's some people, sort of like, on committees and stuff like that sort of like go, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's this?" But this is non-league football, and he's telling you exactly what it's like, and refereeing wise, he's telling you how he can improve it rather than having to go at them all the time. But he's an all-round, top guy, and without him, we probably might even have a show. So, with that. But I mean, yourself then with that. I mean, what made you go back into non-league football? Did you miss it, and then back into church?
I didn't. I swear I didn't miss it. I think that the story was that Stuart Cowshay was Terry Brown's assistant. I've known Cowshay a long time, on Terry, and Cowshay worked with Dave Rayner. Dave Rayner is a big association with Churchy over the years, and he just sold a bit and wanted to invest in Churchy. And I think he went to Cowshay and says, "Look, do you want to be manager?" Now Stuart's busy. His son plays at Notts Forest now, Matt Cowshay, and his other son, although he was at Leatherhead and Hayes, who I had on loan actually. So I think Cowshay wanted to go and watch his boys play football. Had enough of the trials and tribulations of management, and said, "No, Dave, I'm not interested. But here's Dave Anderson's number." And I'd known Dave from years and years ago. So he rang me up and I said, "Oh, I'm fine, Dave. He said, "Look, come and meet me. Come and have a cup of tea with me." Something must have, because he's such an enthusiastic man that when you get around him, he rubs off on you. And I sort of, when I look back, I was in trouble once I got in the car because he's never let me away without the right answer. But when I spoke, it was the one time, and I'd imagine you'll speak to most managers, it was the one time when I said to myself, if every box isn't ticked here, I'm not taking it. So we went with a cup of tea, we went through what needed to be done. Like the ground was a disgrace, the dressing rooms should have been condemned. It was just a mess. The place was a mess, and he agreed to get the pitch done, the ground done, the dressing rooms done, investment into the team. But we had to keep them. They were in a I don't know why in a relegation spot, but hanging above relegation. So when I took it on, I said, "Dave, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll do it to the end of the season. If we stay up, we'll up again. But if we get relegated, I'm out of it. I'm definitely not going down another level because I hadn't been in Combine County since my time at North Greenford." So I remember coming home and my wife sort of looking at me, going, "What are you doing? What's happening?" But I got Steve Hawkins involved, as I said earlier on, and we when we got there, a lot of the players left with the previous manager. They didn't think he should have been sacked, which I was annoyed about at the time because they never gave me a chance to speak to them or to tell them what I was about and how I felt it would be better. But when I look back, it was absolutely the best thing that happened. They did me a massive favour by leaving because if they stay, I have to give them a chance. And you're not at the bottom of the league for no reason. So they done me a favour. Them leaving meant I had to do something quickly. And in the end, we finished comfortable. We were just below mid-table. And then, again, we went in the summer and re-signed and put together a proper squad. And the only one that's seen it all was John Pomeroy, who's a legend at the club and was brilliant all the way through it, John, you know. Excuse me. So it was just one. It just seemed to happen. It just seemed to be set in the stars. And I have to say that I did this. I was a different manager this time. I was quieter. I left the lads. I didn't speak too long in the dressing room. I gave them their own time. I didn't take many sessions. I took some pattern of play stuff in the set pieces, but I let Kevin McLaren and Mickey Bennett do the sessions, and me and Hawks used to have our master plan how we would do and what we would do and how we would do it while I was having a cup of tea watching the guys train. So, and I think the other thing I did was I was always a guy who wanted people to be on the pitch for 90 minutes and see them for minutes. Fleur players don't do that. Fleur players turn up for 10 minutes and win a game, and I would have very few Fleur players on the side. My sides would be effective, but not brilliant to watch. This team was different. This team had 4 or 5 Fleur players who would turn a game in a sixpence, but you wouldn't see them for 8 minutes. You know, Lugo Guenches is a perfect example. You know, turns up 10 minutes a game and wins it. Even in the final, I thought he was excellent in the final, but if you look at our goals, he takes the corner that we score off, he gets the pound, and he plays the 1-2 with Quincy Rowe, and Quincy scores the third goal. So he's hit the inside of the post after that where their keeper made a good save. There's four match winning situations. Dale Binns could do that. Jake Baxter scored 40 goals, and I didn't sign him until the end of August. Andy Crossley could do it. You know, we people who could score goals. John Pomeroy would come on and score goals. So we had real flair, and I had never done that. So it was a bit more adventurous, I would say. You know, and it was a good team to watch, if I say so myself. You know.
When did you realise, like this season that, or last season it is now? When did you realise that? Hang on a minute, there's something special happening here. Do you know what I mean? How sort of quick did you sort of click into that sort of thought? You know,
6 games. You know, 6-7 games, and we signed people. You know, we thought we needed a centre forward, and we got Baxter. We managed to get Lugo to come. I forget where Lugo was. And then we lost Sam Murphy to Hemel Hempstead. And Sam ended up where he went to Hemel and then he came back because I think Barkley had taken over for a little bit. And then Sam left Hemel because the new guy didn't fancy him and he came back. That was massive for us to keep it. But once we were then halfway through the year, we were into the 2 or 3 rounds into the Vase. I don't think anyone was leaving then. But I knew it was special from early doors. And not because I'm clever. Steve Hawkins was saying it. Kev McLaren was saying it. Gary Anderson, who was my physio, who is a British Olympic team manager. We the best medical setup in non-league, never mind the combined counties. And we've all been around the block, and we were all looking at each other going, this is, you know, I knew we'd win the league. I absolutely knew we'd win the league. But to say you're going to the Vase, if you've 10 bad minutes, you're out of the cup. Yeah. You know, and so that you couldn't have said that.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the games. I mean, the first qualifying round, beating Woodley United 4-2. I mean,
we were awful. I swear to you, I think we were behind in the game as well. We were awful in the game. Like, I absolutely ripped them to pieces after the game, after we'd won it, because it could have been over then. It would, and with all due respect to the Woodley, it would have been like Wimbledon beating Man United. But we were there for the taking that day. Thankfully, we didn't have many days like that, but I do remember it. Yeah.
And then on to Tadley.
Yeah, if you look last minute, who scores? Lugo Guenches, last minute in the game. Real tight game, and I hadn't seen him the whole game. And then he cuts inside and steps North Clare and puts it in the net. And then that was in the 90th minute. And then the 93rd minute, Nicky Jupp in goal pulled off an unbelievable save where he flicked it over the bar from close range, But that was a tough game. We had some tough games, Dave,
Now you were to Flackwell Heath?
Yeah, I remember they went 1-0 up, and the guy who scored the goal did a stupid thing. He celebrated in front of our dugout. They scored the goal, and he ran and celebrated right in front of our dugout, and we beat them 6-1. Because he gave me the ammunition for the team talk.
Yeah. I mean, how far in? Next round, second round, you beat Horndean 2-0. I mean, how far in now are you thinking? Hang on a minute, we're on a good run here. We could do this.
No, I think the Horndean game was a real. We were worried about that because they're a proper football inside again, and Steve Hawkins would always go and watch the opposition at least once, and he would come up with a plan. To be fair, I just implemented the plan. He came up with most of how we need to play against the sides we're playing. But when he came back from Horndean, he was worried. He said, "Listen, these are proper pots inside. They'll yeah, a little bit like the final. Cray Valley was the same." So when we get through that, I was thinking we've had some tough ties. We can't keep having tough ties. I think we then went to
Redbridge.
Was it Redbridge?
Yep.
Yeah, went to Redbridge, and on a day that on a pitch that wasn't great, the weather wasn't great. We were superb. Just one of them performances that you hope you get to see, but you don't see it coming. But in fact, the Redbridge chairman went to every Vase game of ours after that. He was so impressed with us that day.
Yeah.
When we played in the Vase, he came to every round after that. So that shows you how good you were that day,
Then it was AFC Ulster. That's how we say it. 5-0 again.
Yes, yeah. That again, I remember that was comfortable. But if I remember right, we scored 2 right on half time. So we went from 1-0 to 3-0. It might have been the other side of half time, but I remember it being done quickly. And listen, once we get 2 or 3-0 up, I don't think, if you look at our record, we don't concede loads of goals. So that and the Redbridge game were as comfortable as the competition got.
And you got, is it Arlen or Elam? 2-0 away?
Away in Manchester. Yeah, that was. We had a real tough ride because we went up north 3 times in a row from here on in. So we went Earlham, but we travelled on the Friday by train. I spoke to people at Wimbledon and Luton, and because we were going to get the coach, and I went, don't get the coach, go by train. Much easier. It's 2 hours. The guys will enjoy it, which they did. We stayed in a proper hotel. We did everything by the book, and we fell into a routine that trip. Where when we arrived, we checked in. We had our own private room to eat in, so we'd have spaghetti, stuff for the guys, spaghetti bolognese and yogurt, fruit, and then we had a quiz which Hawks would do, and they were unbelievable as quizzes, funny, good banter, all the lads, real competitive. So we do that, and then I said to them the first time, which I would never do, certainly not with the old Endon lads. You'd have to have someone at each exit so to keep them in the hotel, Yeah. But these guys are different. I just says, look, you're men, you're not boys. If you go to bed late on a Friday night, go to bed late. If you go to bed early, go to bed early. I go to the bar on a Friday, that's where you'll find me. I'll be in the bar having a couple of beers. If you're coming into the bar, there won't be drinking. I don't mind if you have a soft drink. I have no issue with that. But then what we did with a couple of the guys who weren't going to make the bench, the code name was, I would phone them the day before and go, make sure you pack some beans. And that was code name for you're not in the squad, but you can have a couple of beers. So I wouldn't have anyone in club tracksuits drinking. So myself and the staff, we put on a pair of jeans and went to the bar and had a few beers. But anybody in club tracksuits were soft drinks or not there at all, you know. So when they're 1-2-0, I remember again Lubo Guenches. The game's nothing. I think we're on top. Lubo spins in the box, puts in the top corner 1-0. Jake Baxter gets a penalty with 5 minutes to go and puts it in the top corner as if you would in training, you know. And I remember the journey back in the train was just on one of them nights, you know, quality. And we did. That was our first trip up north, and now we're set in stone how we're going to do this, you know.
And then off to West Auckland again, another 2-0 win.
Yeah, you know, West Auckland, one of the favourites. I think they were favourites until we beat them. They'd won it in the past. That again with Darlington, we said we went Friday to Darlington, same routine, train up, private room, spaghetti, quiz. The lads went to bed. We went to the bar. Saturday, I got in a little habit of when at Ireland when we did pre-match. I give a little sort of, I called it a Land of Hope and Glory speech, you know, just to get them motivated. So I did that. We did everything the same. And I think I've never known a crowd in the Northeast to be so quiet because I think they were genuinely shocked at how good we were. They were bigger, stronger, and we were 2-0 up at half time, and they proper came out of the second half with a kitchen sink. And we found out another thing about us. We found out we could defend that. You know, our back four and goalkeeper were exceptional in the second half. And again, we broke away and maybe should have scored a couple on the break. But I remember the crowd being quiet because the Northeast are usually, you know, it's a good atmosphere, but they were stunned. And again, the journey back was unbelievable on the train. I remember it being just one of them nights on the train back, you know.
And then on to the semi-final. I mean, 1-1 draw at Northwich, and then 0-0 at your place, and then extra time, and then the dreaded penalties. I mean, how were the nerves on that day?
Well, just to go back to the first day, again we went up, and the good thing was that when we played Ireland was half an hour from the hotel we stayed in, and Northwich was half an hour from the same hotel. So we actually stayed in the same hotel. So again, the routine was set in stone. But that all went like a dream, the same thing. Went 1-0 up, terrible day, blowy day, and they equalised. And in the end, we settled for one each. But everyone was saying to me, oh, that's a good result. But I knew that they were a good side, Northwich, you know. And I remember in the last minute, it might have been normal time, or was it extra time? It might have been extra time in the last sort of minute. They get in 1-on-1 and Juppy makes a brilliant save. Otherwise, we're out, you know. Penalties, we practiced them on the Wednesday, and again, we practiced them the day before Wembley. We actually got everyone to hit 4 penalties of 3 goalkeepers. So we rotated the keepers, 2 goals operating. And it just says that you use what you want to do with it. My 5 penalty takers, usually in a situation like that, you might be comfortable with 2 or 3 at the most, and the other 2 you're winging it because it's not a natural to have 5 penalty takers. I was really confident with all 5. I felt that they were all capable of scoring, and I knew Juppy would save one. I just felt that he's a goalkeeper that would save a penalty, and he saved the second one, I think. But when it went to Sam Murphy last penalty, I know it's stupid to say, that was the most confident I felt all day. Because I just knew that the keeper's going to have to make a big save because he's an experienced player. He plays for England in futsal. He's got great feet, great ability, and great confidence in what he's doing. So I remember just saying it might have been Kevin McLaren was sitting beside me or John Pomeroy, and I went, what happened? Because I lost track of what was going on. And he says, Kev said, score to win. I remember that stuck in my head. He says, Gaffer, score to win. And he scored, and then with a good night that night in the local pub and the coaching horses, that was like, wow. Them just, you can't buy memories like that. The sing song, all the fans in there with it, and then you sort of waking up on the Sunday thinking you're going to Wembley, which is a surreal thing,
So I mean, that big day. I mean, I was there myself watching the game, and and I think the best side won on the day, definitely. But I mean, how was you feeling when the trip there and getting there, and then also, of course, going 1-0 down in the game as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we decided to do, we trained at Chelsea the previous week. The Chelsea let us train on the training ground. Usually a big pitch, flat, a perfect pitch. So that helped. That was good. That was a good experience. Then on the Tuesday we trained normally. Thursday we went to Wembley, and they let us in. So again, I spoke to Wimbledon, and they had played in the playoff, and I said, take the guys there before you play, so it's not a big shock to them. So Wembley allow you to go in, go on the pitch, see the dressing rooms. So when you arrive for the game, you know where you're going, and I think that was big. On the Saturday, the day before, we met at Brentford's training ground. We did an hour's training, just messing around, 5-a-sides, but we practiced penalties. That was a big thing that we did, and it was just to get some nervous energy out of the guys. We came back and we booked into the hotel. We watched the FA Cup final together. Again, Wembley, you're going there tomorrow. And then we went into a routine. Spaghetti in a private room, quiz. So we're back in routine, which is, I think, a real beneficial to us. We were up a little bit early for the pre-match because it was a 12:15 kickoff. I did the Land of Hope and Glory again, a different little speech. Off we went to Wembley. So we tried to get them in a routine that they were used to, Got to Wembley. I was quite happy with their mood. I thought they were, you can suss, obviously, I was nervous, but the mood in the dressing room was good. It was just where you wanted to be. It wasn't quiet, it wasn't too noisy. It was just, their warm-up. We did a pre-warm-up. There's a warm-up room at Wembley. And we went into game mode. I think there was a couple of big turning points in the game. One was the fact that we equalised as quickly as we did, because I think they scored and we scored 2-3 minutes later. I think if that goes to 10-15 minutes and 1-0, it's a harder thing to do. They're a good team, There's a bigger chance they'd score again. So that was a big moment. And obviously, Edgar hitting the bar in the last kick of the game. I've watched the game back, and I still turn my head away from the screen because I think it's going in. I think we get the penalty at the right time. I think it is a penalty, in extra time. But I would say that when we get the penalty, it's against the run of play. As indeed I thought their goal was. I thought they scored against the run of play, and I thought we went 2-1 up against the run of play. But I think after that we took over. I think we were brave and we led from in front. And the third goal was worthy of. I thought it was a great game of football, and I have to pay credit to Crowball, and I have in every interview I've done, Dave. They're superb football side with lots of experience in there, and for a level 5 or 6, whatever the level is, I thought the quality of the game was exceptional because no one froze. It's a big occasion. Both teams played,
I said to people, I thought your game was a far better game than the actual trophy final. I think on the day it was like chalk and cheese. It was just one brilliant game, and one game was a bit dour.
Yeah, I didn't. Obviously, I was having a few beers when the trophy final.
But I mean, you say about the goal, from Quincy Rowe. I mean, if that would have been, in the cup final the day before, it would have been shown constantly all the way through the summer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's 2 big points about it. The first one is, what was he doing there? What was he doing there? It's 5 minutes to go, and then he's,
Well, I must admit, when I saw that, I thought he was a midfield player until I looked at somebody listening. Hang on a minute, centre half.
But I mean as well. When we got the balls to the final, the FA sent 20 balls because the balls are different than the league balls, and we found that the balls were lighter. The goalkeepers had a bit of trouble getting the feel of them just in the air. We 3 or 4 sessions of them, but we did a couple of finishing sessions where you weren't allowed to launch the ball. You had to pass the ball in. So it's in set, pass it in. And if you look at his finish, that's exactly what we did in training. So he carried out something that we did in training. It became instinctive to him. But the big story is, and I swear this is, Quincy Rowe has been late all season. And he was late for this. I nearly left him in the semi-final, second leg. I was absolutely at the hump with him. Kevin McLaren talked me out of it, saying, look, you've got to swallow it because we did all the preparation. Don't get in there now because it's a big game. So I took Kev's advice, and he was right to do that as a member of staff. And I remember speaking to Quincy after, going, don't you do that to me ever again. So we train at Brentford. He's an hour and a half late. He's an hour and a half late for the session. He's missed the best part of the session. And he'd phoned up to say he was being late, and I more or less told him to piss off, hung up. And when he got there, but I'd gone into the toilet in the dressing rooms, and he's rushed in. I'm in the toilet, he doesn't know I'm in the toilet, and he's rushed in. I can hear him frantically trying to get his kid on. How's his luck? I've just walked out, shut the door, and absolutely ripped him to pieces, but like properly ripped him to pieces. And then it turns out that later on, because I was all for leaving him out, only, again, the staff go, you can't, your preparation's done. I says, well, I'm fining him a load of money, I'm doing something to him. But then later in the evening in the hotel, Kev came in and he says, look, Quincy's been to see his grandfather's ill, and he'd gone to see him with his family, and he get caught up. I said, well, why didn't he just tell me that? If he told me that, I'd have said, don't come to him, because we're only messing around. We're going to take penalties, and, are you going to take a penalty? Maybe in sudden death. So I pulled him and went, why didn't you tell me, So he was within an inch of not playing. So that was the football gods telling me I made the right decision, to be honest. But what a finish. What an unbelievable goal.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic finish. But I mean, so at any point, once that full-time whistle's gone, you've had that chat, as you said, when we first started with the chairman. I mean, was there anything sitting in there thinking, hang on a minute, Isthmian next, if I'm right in saying it's the Bostik South Central for Chertsey next year. I mean, was there any thought in your mind thinking, do you know what, I'd like to have a go at that?
Not straight away. I did I remember there being a day or two, a couple of days after the game, because I looked at the division, and it's actually more local to me than the combined. I live in Norfolk, sort of Harrow, and if you look at the games, there's a lot of games within sort of 20 minutes of my house, but it was only for a day, and because it's continuous, you never get to stop and stop still. So I did for a day, because you sort of think, listen, if Kev keeps this side together, he's going to be a great manager, Kevin McLaren, don't worry about that. He's got the staff together, he keeps this side together, maybe adds, changes one or two, which you have to do. I expect him to be up there next year, so I could see success in it. Maybe that was my ego thinking that I want to be part of that, but it was only for a very short period of time, and then I thought, nah, I'd be a fool, wouldn't I? But, I've won it. I've gone back for a year and a half. It's been unbelievable. I'm not in love with it. I'm really not. The managerial side of it, I'm not. And to someone to give you the chance to play your last game and win at Wembley. Well, the only thing I said to the press was, if I come back into football, someone's going to have to make me wealthy. It's going to have to be an awful lot of money. And so I would never say never. And I've never really worked for money, although it's been part of what we do. But if I'm coming back, believe me, I ain't driving a Ford Focus around, and I'm quite happy to drive the Ford Focus, because I'm quite happy to walk away. I'll still do the radio stuff, but I'm quite happy with how lucky am I to be able to do what I've done.
So you're waiting for Danny Cartley to get a Premier job, so he calls you somewhere and he gives you a shout to come down and be a coach.
Nah, be the coach driver, but that's all,
I suppose. I mean, are you happy with? Do you think? I mean, was you over the moon to see Kevin get the job after yourself?
Absolutely, we spoke about it. I mean, when I brought him on board, he wanted to get into the staff side of it, which is the only reason I got him. He dropped sort of 2 divisions. He was captain in Kingston. He's a player I always wanted in the dressing room. But I never really chased it. He knew that if he was never happy handing it, I would be all over it. But I would never chase it too far, because I'm big friends with Gary McCann, Gary Clidd from Hendon, and we're been big mates since. So I wouldn't do that to Gary. And to be fair, Kevin's a loyal man as well, and it would have been the wrong thing to do. But I always wanted him in the dressing room, and to be fair, I wasn't let down. He's a proper leader of men. I see so much of him in the fire he's got, in how he's driven, the things he sees, and if he's got a little bit of luck like I had, he could go much further. He has to control his beast. He's got a beast in there, and it can come out every now and again. But with age, that you start to understand when to sort of put a lid on it. But we spoke early on, and to be fair, Kev had said to me, I told Kev I was leaving at the end of the year. Before I told the players, I told Kev and the staff and the directors, and Dave Rayner and Barney. They were all aware. I didn't tell the players. I didn't think it was relevant, or they needed to know. It was no big issue. But Kev was sort of saying, just do another year. He wanted another year, sort of as an assistant. But I was saying, Kev, you don't need it. I've been around long enough to know that he's ready. He didn't need another year under my wing, if you want, and he's got Steve Hawkins, who's agreed to stay on, which I think is massive because of his experience. But Kev will do it his. Listen, I'm looking forward to going and watching him. But mark my words, he could beat Danny Cowley, Kev McLaren. He could proper go all the way if he wants to. He'll find out in the next year or two if it's for him. And he'll need a bit of luck, because we all need luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he has got the potential to go all the way. So, and we knew it was happening, and it was absolutely the right thing for Churchy Town for it to happen as well.
I suppose one last question before I let you go, and I think it was probably one of the funniest things that we saw on the final day. And I mean, I bet you was well chuffed to see BT Sport, show you. Well, I'm assuming rushing off to the toilet halfway through the game.
Yeah. Yes. The only thing there was I did that 7 or 8 times because my bladder isn't what it used to be. I drink a load of water on match days. And we had a few beers the night before in the hotel, so it was hungover. But I do that all the time. It's a nervous thing because when they took us to the dressing rooms originally, it's like a minute's walk. So the lads are saying, the staff are saying to me, you're going to miss half the game because they can go like a minute out. But there's one way of thought of everything. There's a toilet right at the end of the tunnel, right. And the tunnel ain't long. So basically, you down the tunnel is that there's a toilet either side. So they thought of everything. So yeah, while people thought it was funny, I was delighted they only showed me once.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Listen, Dave, it's been fantastic talking to you this morning. I really do appreciate you giving up your time this morning. And we wish you all the very, very best in your retirement, and hope everything goes okay for you.
Really appreciate it, Dave. I'll maybe come in and see you next season sometime.
Magic. Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, man.